A 13-year-old American boy, Nicholas Barclay, disappeared near his home in Texas in 1994. 3.5 years later, that boy turned up in Spain. But the man who turned up in Spain was not Nicholas Barclay, nor was he 16. It was me, a 23-year-old French man. My name is Frederick Bourdin, and I convinced the world that I was a 16-year-old little boy that ran away from his family in Texas. It was so easy to fool the United States FBI, the Spanish authorities, and surprisingly, even Nicholas Barclay's own family. Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Freud, Voltaire, and Jung have all written extensively on antisocial personality disorder. The antisocial personality is typically cynical, ungrateful, and disloyal. They can't understand how their actions harm, wound, or upset others. This phenomenon is captured in Bart Layton's documentary, The Imposter. Layton explores, by way of dramatic recreations, how a man convinced a family that he was their son, their brother, and what kind of man could possibly do this. He also argues that it's often the deceiver and the deceived that are victims of themselves. The Imposter, by Bart Layton. Listen, I was a kid without a family, and they were a family without a kid, so if you ask me, it was just fate. I mean, Nicholas disappeared on June 13th, and I want you to take a guess at when my birthday is. That's right, June 13th. That is not a coincidence. Nicholas's father left when he was born, and my father left when I was born. Nicholas had a half-sister, and I had a half-sister. And it's so easy for you to judge me, but you don't even understand why I did it. This was all a desperate attempt, a strategy at survival, but it got way out of hand. I didn't just set out to hurt this particular family. It didn't feel good. I always knew what is right from what is wrong, and I knew that this was wrong, but at this moment, I just wanted a way out of my own life. What's that? My motivation? My motivation was love. I was just looking for a family to love me. You see, I was born in a suburb of Paris. My mother was 18 when she became pregnant by an older Algerian man whom she had met at the factory where she worked. I never knew my father. My mother was mentally ill, and on the rare occasions when I did see her, she was often violent, and the only memory that I remember is as a child, she would often slap me, and then slap me harder, and then she would walk up to me, and she would hug me. She hurt me on purpose, just so that she could comfort me. Because I was half Algerian, parents forbade their children to play with me. I had no friends, and no one to give a shit about me. The only neighbor who pretended to care for me. He molested me. And when you're made ashamed of who you are by the people who are supposed to love you, when they make you understand that you are nothing, that you are a piece of shit, then you want to be something that they will be proud of. You want to be something that they will love. You dream of becoming somebody else. So I became Nicholas Barclay. At the time, I was living at a homeless shelter for street children in Linares, Spain. And it was there that I thought up the idea to call America and pretend to be a missing child. That night, I snuck into the director's office and I made random calls. I called Oklahoma, California, and Montana. And finally, I was put through to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in Virginia. I told them that a missing child had showed up at our shelter. The lady looked and said that the boy might be Nicholas Barclay, who disappeared from San Antonio, Texas in 1994. And I asked her to fax over the details, and she did. And I decided that Nicholas Barclay was sufficient enough to give me the new bones of a new identity. So I called back the shelter. Yes, hello, I have great news. I have Nicholas Barclay standing right next to me. Now, Nicholas was blonde hair, he had blue eyes, and he had a tattoo of a cross on his right hand. So I dyed my hair, and a friend at the shelter executed a similar tattoo on my right hand. But now I needed a story to explain myself. After being abducted in San Antonio, I was flown to Europe and abused by pedophile rings before managing to escape. I had been injected in the eyes, turning them from blue to brown. And I was forbidden to speak English. And I thought, you know what, that should explain my accent. After accounting my story to the Spanish and American authorities, my Texan family was contacted about my reemergence, and just like that, I was told I will be returning home to America. My sister Carrie will be flying down to Spain to take me home. Believe it or not, this made me sick. I didn't have control over this at all. I thought I had, but I was scared. I didn't have control at all, not for 1 second. There was no way she was going to believe that I was her brother. I mean, come on, look at this accent. So I disguised myself a bit. I muffled myself in a scarf and wore a hat and sunglasses as I waited in the director's office. After a while, a lady walked in, and she was Carrie, and she was my beautiful sister. Or I should say, she was Nicholas's sister. I didn't really expect for a tenth of a second that she would be fooled into believing that I was actually her brother. But she was. She walked up to me, and she embraced me, and she said, "Glory, glory to God, I knew you were out there, Nick. I knew you were somewhere out there." But I was convinced that she truly did not believe that I was actually her brother. But I guess when you're in such distress, you'll do anything to make love win. And I should have known that, because that's what I've been doing all these years, pretending even to myself. So if Carrie needed me to be her brother, then I decided to. We traveled to Madrid, where I was issued a United States passport in the name of Nicholas Barclay. But as I looked at the passport, I realized that this was my opportunity to run. Just run now before somebody notices something. But I looked at Carrie, and I noticed that she was staring at me with nothing but love and pity in her eyes. So I decided if Nicholas's family was anything like Carrie, then it must be a perfect family. So I decided not to run. The following day, we flew to San Antonio, Texas. Okay, I thought, I'm entering the bosom of the American dream. But I quickly came to realize that the family I had just joined was as dysfunctional as the family that I had been raised in. Nicholas's mother, Beverly, was a heroin addict who had raised Carrie, Nicholas, and an older brother, Jason, on her own. Nicholas was apparently an out-of-control adolescent who had a problem with running away from home and whom parents kept their children away from. Jason also had his own problem with drugs. And Carrie, although she was sweet and gullible, had a problem with alcohol abuse. And this disappointed me very, very much. But I moved into Carrie's trailer home outside of San Antonio, Texas, with her and her husband and their children. I enrolled in a local high school, and in the evenings, I did my homework and watched television with the family. And I told Carrie that it was good to be home. But I kept asking myself, how could this family possibly believe that I was Nicholas? How in particular could Beverly believe that I was possibly her son? Everything in her behavior suggested that she did not truly believe it all. This had gone on for 3 months before, guess what? Somebody noticed I did not have the same ear shape as Nicholas. That was all it took, was my damn ear shape. Apparently Nicholas had a free lobe while I had an attached lobe. Some stupid and private investigator kept looking into me until he finally noticed that I did not have the same ear shape. Come on, it was my ear shape. There was a video taken of my home reunion in San Antonio, Texas. If you look at the video, you can see Beverly running up to embrace me. But I want you to look at the video. Take a closer look at Beverly's face. You could see she couldn't hide the disappointment in her face. And I am sure 200% that when Beverly went home, she locked herself in her bedroom and she cried her heart out because she understood I was not Nicholas. She understood that her Nicholas was never coming back. Most people who go to church don't actually believe in God. Very few people actually really believe anymore. But there is something deep down inside of every single one of us that makes us want to hold on to having hope for having some sort of God. The same thing happened to the Barclay family. They wanted me to be Nicholas. I wanted to be Nicholas.